Good morning, Dr. Randy. Happy Monday.
Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Well, thanks. We're here another exciting time with you and to talk about your latest article from Psychology Today. And you started out with saying footprints. Tell us more about it.
Well, it's so interesting. A number of years ago, I read an article that the woman who owned PayPal bought a program from a young Israeli man who had written a program on how to look for terrorists by looking for footprints. Footprints meaning, where has the person been? Where are they now? Where are they going? And she was able to utilize that program and it cut down her expenses of people who didn't pay on PayPal. And I sort of stuck it in the back of my mind. I said, that's really interesting. And then I started thinking about, well, when people grew up in the same neighborhoods, or they grew up with people they knew, or they got fixed up by friends before the dating apps and things like that became so popular, they pretty much knew who they were dating and they had some sense of them. But in today's world, where people date people and they have no idea who they are, they have no idea where they've been, they have no idea if they're being scammed, they have no idea if the person is telling the truth. 0, 0, 0. And they have to sort of figure out how to find out whether that is true to, number one, avoid from being harmed or scammed or hurt or disappointed or disillusioned. So I thought back to that article on footprints. And I thought, wow, there are definitely some powerful footprints that you can use to determine whether or not the person you are dating is who that person is. So I started thinking about what those footprints are. So, more people are dating people that they don't know where they come from. That's really obvious. They're dating people from other locations or even other places in the world. And they don't have other people to back them up. They can't call a friend and say, remember this guy we met in college? What do you think is what's happening? They have no way to find that out. So what are the footprints? So you meet somebody, and if you actually start to meet them in person, you can see certain things that don't line up. Like, are they the height they said they were, or the weight they said they were, or the age they said they were, or whatever. But the footprints I'm looking at are to really understand how you would figure out very carefully and very accurately and very quickly who that person is. And whether who they say they are, as I said, is who they actually are. So for instance, and these are some of the things you can ask yourself. You say to a person, can I look you up on social media? I'd like to see how you come across to other people. Well, if they're offended by that, or they're not on social media, that's a big scare. Why are they not on some kind of social media? Do you have any mutual acquaintances? Have you visited places they visited? Have you read the same books? If they tell you things, for instance, about, oh, I love hiking. Oh, what are your favorite trails? Where, I just moved here, so I don't know what they are yet. Or, I love children. But then when you invite him over to your sister's child's birthday party, they're just always busy. Or for instance, are you being invited to meet other people in their circle? That's really important. If they, after 3 or 4 dates, you can pretty much assume that you're going to meet one of their best friends. Something is going to happen that you're going to get to know better who they hang out with, right? So if they're not asking you to meet friends, or they don't want to meet your friends, because there's no way to get rid of a predator more quickly to put him in a circle of people who love you.
Right.
They don't want to know those people because they don't want to know. They don't want to be known.
Correct.
Some way or another. Or sometimes you can only text them at certain times of the day or night. Are they married? They give you some story about when I'm very, very busy and my business calls upon me quickly and sometimes I can't be available. But you're starting to feel a little bit like gaslighted. Like, wait a second, hold on a minute. Things are just not adding up here. Or maybe you've never been invited to his or her place where they live. Or they give you some story about where they work, but it doesn't add up to what they tell you they've done or where they've been.
Mhm.
Stories just more and more don't add up. What would be another footprint? Can you reach them at any time if you needed them, if in some kind of emergency? But if they say, I'll call you tomorrow, but they don't. And then you don't hear from them for a week. You sort of think, well, are they dating other people? So you ask them that question. Oh, no. I'm just a really busy person. So then you start asking yourself questions like, well, even if they're legitimate, if they act that way in any relationship, people are going to become suspicious. Is this who they are?
Mm-hmm.
Start to sort of ask yourself questions like that. One of the most important things of all is you will find out if you haven't met them yet, or you're just doing email or you're texting, you start to feel that they're asking a lot more questions about you than they're giving you information about who they are.
Mm-hmm.
It begins to dawn on you that I'm much more vulnerable here. I've told him where I live. I told him about my parents. I told him about my sisters and brothers. He's asked me about any children. He's asked me where I traveled, but I don't have any information on him or her. That's weird. So you begin to sort of ask yourself questions. You're feeling a little bit nervous. Now, remember, there are a lot of scammers out there now. Really scammers who get money from people. I mean, particularly people who are lonely or don't have anybody to protect them, or they themselves in a new city location, they don't know anyone, so they don't have it, and they don't have anything to back it up. Sometimes that person will say something simple like, I'd love to come see you, but my aunt just had surgery. I gave her all my money. Is there any possible way you could get me a round trip ticket and I'll pay you as soon as I get there?
Mm-hmm.
A charm, if just sometimes people get caught up.
Right.
And they'll send money or something like that. Or, are they going to be stalked at some point in time? Sometimes after a little bit of, one of the things that's very interesting, most people who are on these dating apps
Mm-hmm.
are really looking for relationships. There's lots of people that, privacy is different. Like, I once wrote an article called When Should I Have Told You? Like, well, if you meet somebody right away, sometimes you don't tell them I had an abortion when I was 15, or you don't tell them about, I once had a DUI. I mean, it's just too soon in the relationship. You want to sort of make sure the relationship is established first, and the person,
Mm-hmm.
you sort of know who the person is, and then you sort of reveal in layers, testing how that person is going to respond to something. So I want to make sure people understand privacy is okay. It's much more this sense of feeling that this is not just privacy, this is hiding. Because people who don't have anything to hide are more than willing to share what their lives are like, and everything sort of adds up. Then it's like, okay, the footprints are in place. I know where they've been. I know where they're walking right now on their path. I know what their dreams are. I know where they're going. Maybe this is safe. Maybe I can take a chance here. And in today's world, man, if you don't look for footprints, you're crazy.
And I think it's really changed because, like you said, in social media, I mean, at least back when I was a teenager in the 80s, either you have to call them or write a letter, like a snail mail.
Absolutely.
And I think
you had more time to get to know somebody.
Yeah. At the same time, the people that you meet, it still has that communication gap, but nowadays you can really communicate them at any time. A text.
You don't have that wonderful comfort of mutual acquaintances.
Right. So you're able to reach out further and more strangers easily than you would be like in a small town or something where you're just exposed to the people in the area. Right. So there is that. And what's interesting, as I did meet my wife online, 1998. Yes. So it was love@aol.com. So this article really hits me because, we had to text at that point, pagers, and then you finally meet up, and then you just have to check them out, and
just ask yourself if you were going to hire somebody in your business,
mm-hmm.
You get a resume, you check out that resume,
right?
You call their prior employers. You try to get validations that they're saying what they're saying. You might even check out where they went to school, because they're telling you they graduated a certain college at a certain time. You can get that roster. You would never think of hiring somebody or giving them personal information about your business or about your own clients.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you couldn't trust them, they could use that information and harm those people through you.
Sure.
So why wouldn't you, when you're dating and it's so vulnerable, why wouldn't you look for the footprints accurately and intentionally? Now, interestingly enough, a best friend will ask you to look for footprints because they're concerned about you.
I almost see this topic as being a talk show where people can
you
call
know-
in. When people can call in, like, you know.
I'm just saying, you cut your losses so much faster that way. There are lots of people in this world who are extremely seductive, very charismatic, extremely good at seducing other people, throwing out auras that just wrap you in that kind of energy.
Right.
But they're bad people. And now they can get hold, and they can get rosters, and they can find out where you come from. And the internet now has 1,500 dating sites.
Wow.
Even though the top 10 are still there, Bumble and Tinder and things like that, still 1,500. So the splintering, if you
Mhm.
wanted to date somebody who raised ferrets on a desert island, you probably could find somebody, right? I mean, so it becomes even more necessary because it's so much easier to lie on one of those very, very narrow sites.
Wow. So I think we have to do a follow-up on this session. I think many people looking for love right now, whether they be single or married and divorced, I think these are all really great topics for them to kind of step back and review.
As I said a minute ago, somebody who loved you, or somebody who loves a friend, or somebody who loves a child, or even a parent, a mother and father, they would immediately say, how do you know this person is legitimate? What have you done? You checked up on them? I mean, somebody close to you gets it, but people don't do it for themselves.
Wow. Amazing article, Dr. Annie. Thank you for sharing that. If there's any comments or questions, once we post it on our YouTube channel, Randy Gunther Media at YouTube, go ahead and get a comment, and maybe Dr. Randy can answer some of your questions, or call her directly. Where can they find you, Dr. Randy?
But they can certainly email me at Randy Gunther, one word, Randy with an I, at cox.net. I generally try to take the time to respond to anything if I can. If I have the time, I always do, because I think this is about relationships. And even though I can't talk to somebody directly, they can still be in my heart. I can still want to help.
Great. And we'll send the link below to your website, which is
randygunther.com or relationshipsactually.org, which lists all 250 articles I've written for Psychology Today.
great. Thank you for your time, Dr. Randy. We'll see you in your next podcast.
My pleasure. Be about a week.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.